Tell me about your family, your reasons for competing. You are mine. I knew you were female.
I am Leonora Carlson.
She is your Lunar Queen!
The blade was sharper than I expected. I watched my reflection fracture in my father's study mirror, the last place Leonora Carlson would ever exist. Dark hair that had once reached my waist now scattered across stolen marble like ash. Each severed strand was a small death, a quiet murder of the daughter who'd spent 23 years begging to be seen. Snip. Another piece of myself hitting the floor. Snip. Another year of invisibility severed clean. My stepbrothers would compete in the sovereign trials tomorrow. Bjorn, Eric, Magnus. The golden trinity who wore our father's pride like a crown, while I wore his disappointment like a noose around my throat, tightening with every breath I dared to take in his presence. But here's what nobody tells you about being invisible. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erasure, a systematic dismissal. One missed dinner conversation, one overlooked achievement, one moment where your father looks through you instead of at you, and you realize you're not even worth the effort of rejection. You just don't register. So you learn to make yourself smaller, quieter, less, until one day you look in the mirror and realize, wait, when did I agree to disappear? Tomorrow I would become Leo, a son, a warrior, someone worth looking at. The linen binding bit into my ribs as I wound it tighter, tighter, until breathing became a conscious choice. Each wrap erased another curve, another softness, another piece of evidence that I was born wrong. Pain was good. Pain kept you sharp. Pain reminded you that this suffocation, was still better than the alternative, being seen as worthless. I pressed harder. The binding cut deep enough to bruise. You know what's funny? I'd spent 2 decades trying to earn my father's gaze. And tomorrow, I'd walk into those trials wearing a mask specifically designed to hide from someone else's eyes. The Alpha King, Adrian Hegland. 300 years old, golden eyes that could allegedly see truth through lies the way light reveals dust in air. Ancient, powerful, ruthless, and looking for 6 warriors to guard his throne. Just had to survive the trials, survive his scrutiny, survive the moment those golden eyes landed on me and saw, what? A fraud, a girl playing dress-up, a desperate daughter so starved for recognition she'd literally cut herself into a shape that fit. The scissors slipped. Blood bloomed across my knuckle, bright and honest. I watched it drip onto the marble, mixing with my severed hair, and thought, tomorrow I either become someone who matters or I die trying. Because here's the truth they don't tell you when you're growing up invisible. Sometimes the most dangerous thing a woman can do is stop asking for permission to exist. What I didn't know, what I couldn't know, was that Adrian Hegland would smell me the moment I'd entered his domain. Honeysuckle and defiance. That his wolf would recognize what I'd hidden beneath stolen cloth and desperate lies. That the game I thought I was playing, prove yourself, earn respect, finally matter, wasn't the game at all. He wouldn't just scrutinize me, he would hunt me. And the part that should have terrified me, the part that would change everything, I wanted to be caught. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to a story that's going to grip your heart and refuse to let go. Tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing our packs spread across the globe. And hey, how are you doing today? I genuinely want to know. Now, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss what happens next in this story. Ready? The carriage ride to the Capitol took 3 days, and I spent every minute of it sitting across from men who'd known me my entire life. Bjorn stared out the window, jaw tight. Eric polished his blade for the 100th time, preening. Magnus smiled like he could already taste victory. None of them looked at me once. Perfect. You want to know the secret to becoming invisible? It's easier than you think. Hunch your shoulders, drop your voice half an octave, take up less space than your body requires. Watch how men move, the swagger, the spread, the way they claim territory just by existing, and mimic it until your muscles remember what your mind keeps forgetting. That you're performing survival, not living it. The Capitol rose from the horizon like a threat-made architecture. Obsidian towers that swallowed light. 6 territory banners: Stormfowl, Bloodmoon, Nightshade, Ironpaw, Silverthorn, Moonshadow, snapping in wind that tasted like smoke and dominance. And at the center, the Royal Palace, a dark crown of stone and silver that made my throat close. Somewhere inside those walls, Adrian Hegland waited. Registration happened in waves. 200 males, bodies pressed close, sweat and leather and the copper tang of pre-bal adrenaline. I kept my forged documents folded against my chest, right over the binding that was already cutting circulation. The clerk barely glanced at my papers. Leo Carlson, Stormhow, medical clearance. I slid the falsified form across marble that reflected distorted versions of everyone in line. Cleared. His eyes flicked up. Paused. My heart stopped. You look young. I'm not. Voice low, steady. Don't crack now. He stamped the document. Barracks 12, 200 entered, 6 will be chosen. Survival rate is 60%. The trials begin at dawn. Wait. 60% survival rate meant 80 men would die. And I just walked into a legal killing ground wearing a disguise that could unravel with one wrong move, one slip, one moment where pain made me forget to perform masculinity like my life depended on it. Because it did. Barracks 12 was a long room with 20 bunks, no privacy, and communal showers I'd have to navigate without ever fully undressing. 19 men who looked at Leo and saw exactly what I'd designed them to see. Weakness. Fresh meat, someone muttered. Magnus, my stepbrother, my tormentor, the boy who'd once locked me in a cellar for 3 days and told our father I'd run away, claimed the bunk nearest the window, and never once glanced at the scrawny recruit 2 beds over. I laid down that first night with the binding slicing into ribs that couldn't fully expand. Outside, wolves howled, deep, ancient, close, and I knew with visceral certainty the king was near, and he was hunting. I finally fell asleep after hours of hypervigilance, my hand pressed against the bruises blooming beneath linen wraps. I dreamed of golden eyes. Woke to find a black wolf outside the barracks window, massive and utterly still, watching me through glass with an intelligence that felt wrong. I blinked. It vanished. But I could still feel the weight of its stare burning into my skin, marking me, claiming me, promising, I see you. And that terrified me more than any blade. The grand arena was built for spectacle and blood in equal measure. Stone tiers rising toward a sky that felt too vast, too exposed. 200 of us lined up like livestock at auction, and somewhere in that crowd of thousands, people were already placing bets on who'd survive the first trial. Spoiler, they weren't betting on the scrawny kid from Stormhowl. Then he walked in, and the air changed. You know that moment when you realize you've miscalculated badly? When the thing you thought was manageable reveals itself as catastrophic? Adrian Hegland wasn't a king. He was a reckoning. Massive, dark hair that caught light like it was stealing it, and those eyes, golden, ancient, wrong, in the way apex predators are wrong when they're wearing human skin. 300 years of existence, compressed into a body that moved like violence set to music. The crowd didn't just respect him, they submitted to him on a cellular level. And he prowled the arena floor studying each competitor personally, not from some distant throne. My turn came too fast. "Name and pack," the officiator's voice echoed. I stepped forward, spine straight, voice low. "Leo Carlson of Storm Howl." Adrian's head turned. Our eyes met, and the world lurched. Electricity shot through my veins. No, not electricity. Something older, more primal. Gravity inverted. My wolf, dormant and neglected for 23 years, suddenly clawed awake inside my chest, howling mine so loud I nearly stumbled. His nostrils flared. Eyes flashed brighter gold. The mate bond hit like lightning striking the same spot twice. Oh no. Oh God, no. He stared. Too long. The line behind me shifted uncomfortably. His head tilted fractionally, predator examining prey. And when he spoke, his voice carried alpha command that made every wolf in the arena instinctively lower their eyes. Except mine. I couldn't look away. "Leo Carlson of Storm Howl." He tasted each word. Interesting. That single word felt like a promise and a threat. I forced myself to move, to breathe, to return to the line while my heart tried to escape my ribcage. Because here's what nobody tells you about fate. Sometimes destiny is just a trap wearing a crown. The first trial was announced, the gauntlet. 30 minutes to complete an obstacle course designed by someone who clearly hated the concept of survival. Climbing walls with handholds that crumbled under weight. A field of silver-laced obstacles that would burn shifter skin on contact. A puzzle that required coherent thought while your body was screaming for oxygen. A final sprint when your legs had nothing left. 5 competitors didn't finish. 1 died. Silver poisoning. Convulsing on the arena floor while medics worked frantically and failed. I finished. Barely. Middle of the pack. Unremarkable. Except Adrian watched my entire run. I could feel him. Not just see him standing in the royal box. I could sense his location, like a compass pointing north. The mate bond hummed under my skin, pulling, insisting, demanding I turn around and acknowledge what we both knew. I didn't. I limped toward the barracks with competitors who were already forgetting I existed, which was exactly what I needed. Then a voice behind me. "Leo Carlson." I turned. Captain Andreas. Scarred, lean, eyes too knowing. "The king has requested you report to the training courtyard at dawn tomorrow. Personal instruction. Consider it an honor." My blood ran cold. Every other competitor looked at me with sudden envy. They thought this was privilege. I knew better. Personal attention from a king who could smell lies? From a mate I couldn't claim? This wasn't honor. This was the beginning of my exposure. And the wolf outside my window last night? The one watching with golden eyes? That was never a dream. That was a preview. Dawn came too fast and brought Captain Andreas with it. The private courtyard was empty, except for weapons racks and bloodstains older than I was. Andreas stood in the center, like he'd grown from the stone itself. Scarred, lean, the kind of efficient that comes from surviving things that killed everyone else. "Show me how you fight." No preamble, no warmth. I moved into stance, and he circled me, the way wolves circle wounded prey. "Where'd you train?" "Home, mostly." Truth wrapped in omission. "Who taught you?" "Books. Observation. More truth. Dangerous truth." His eyes narrowed. "Fight me. Here's what happens when you've never had formal training, but you've spent years watching through windows, studying from stolen manuals, learning combat the way other girls learn embroidery. You develop a style that screams self-taught. I moved wrong. Too technical. Too defensive. Using his momentum against him instead of overpowering. Evading instead of engaging. Turning his strength into my weapon because I'd never had strength of my own. Andreas noticed. Of course he noticed. During grappling, his hand landed on my ribs, right where the binding cut deepest, and paused. Fractional. Barely a heartbeat. My breath caught. His eyes met mine. Then he continued like nothing happened, flipping me onto my back hard enough that stars burst across my vision. Interesting technique, he said, offering his hand. Unorthodox. Code 4. I know what you are. Training ended. I was walking away when his voice stopped me. Leo. I turned. He held out a bundle of fabric. Military-grade binding wraps, the kind that actually support instead of slowly suffocate. These will serve you better. No explanation. No acknowledgement. Just kindness disguised as practicality. My throat closed. Why? Trial of endurance begins tomorrow at dawn. 48 hours in the northern forest. No supplies. No help. Competitors released in intervals. His voice was flat. Professional. Dangerous wildlife. Harsh terrain. And some men consider it the perfect opportunity to eliminate rivals where accidents aren't questioned. Translation. People will try to kill you. Be ready. I took the wraps. Thank you. Don't thank me. Something flickered in his eyes. Kind eyes that contradicted everything else about him. Just survive. You know what's more terrifying than an enemy? An ally you don't understand. Why would Andreas help me? What did he gain from protecting a fraud who'd infiltrated trials she had no right to enter? Unless he knew something I didn't. I left the courtyard with questions burning hotter than the binding bruises. And that's when I passed the window. Adrian stood on a balcony above, utterly still, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Our eyes met. He didn't smile, didn't look away, didn't pretend this was coincidence. The message was clear. I'm hunting you. And the worst part, the part that made me hate myself, was that I didn't know if that terrified me or thrilled me. Because sometimes being seen, even by a predator, feels better than another day of invisibility, even when being seen might kill you. The northern forest swallowed me whole. Third wave release meant every advantage went to the men already miles ahead, already claiming water sources, already setting traps for those of us stupid enough to follow. 12 hours in, I found water by following deer tracks, avoided a bear by climbing a tree and staying silent for an hour while it marked territory below. Navigated by moss growth because the canopy was so thick I couldn't see stars. Basic survival. The kind you learn from books when nobody bothers teaching you in person. Hour 18. I found Torben bleeding behind a fallen log, femoral artery nicked, slowly dying. Smart play? Leave him. One less competitor. I didn't. Here's the thing about being invisible your whole life. You know exactly what it feels like to be left behind, to be deemed not worth saving. I bound his leg with strips torn from my shirt, told him how to reach the watchtower, kept moving. Hour 24, 3 competitors found me. Well, the king's little pet, all alone. You know that moment when you realize someone's already decided your prey? When talking won't help, running won't work, and the only option left is violence? They came at me together. I used the terrain, a root system that tripped the first one, a low branch that caught the second across the throat. The third was faster, meaner, and when his blade found my ribs, something primal took over. I killed him, snapped his neck with a move I'd only ever read about, and his body hit the ground with a sound I'll never unhear. I vomited until there was nothing left. My hand shook for hours. But I didn't regret it. You can't regret choosing your own survival. Hour 36, I was bleeding, binding torn half loose from combat, huddled in a cave when the howls started. Close. Then he appeared. Massive black wolf, gold eyes catching moonlight like twin flames. Every instinct screamed danger. But the mate bond sang home so loud I couldn't think. Adrian circled me once, sniffed my wounds, then lowered himself at the cave entrance, a wall of fur and muscle between me and everything that wanted me dead. He was protecting me, breaking every rule, violating trial integrity, and nobody would dare question the king. I should have been angry, should have felt cheated, diminished, like my survival was suddenly less earned. But here's what I felt instead: safe. For the first time in 23 years, someone considered me worth protecting. I fell asleep with my hand buried in his fur, the mate bond humming between us like a lullaby. And for those few hours, I let myself believe that maybe, being seen wasn't the worst thing after all. Dawn came with Adrian gone, and a dead rabbit at the cave entrance. Breakfast. I made the watchtower with 30 minutes to spare, binding held together by sheer will and military-grade wraps that had saved my life twice over. Andreas was waiting. His eyes tracked the torn fabric, the dried blood, the exhaustion carved into my face. The king was very concerned about competitor safety during this trial. We sent out patrol wolves. His voice was carefully neutral. "I'm glad you survived." But his eyes said something different. "I know what he did. I know what you are. This secret is getting dangerous." And suddenly, being hunted didn't feel like a game anymore. It felt like inevitability. The pack doctor had hands that felt like suspicion given form. "Remove your shirt for examination. Religious reasons, I can't." The lie tasted like copper. His eyes narrowed. "Your ribs are bruised, possibly cracked. I need to—" Andreas's elbow caught the medical tray. Supplies clattered everywhere, glass shattering, and in the chaos of cleanup, the doctor's attention fractured just enough. "Examine through the clothing," Andreas said, not a suggestion. The doctor's hands pressed against fabric, hiding skin, hiding truth, and I forced myself not to flinch when he touched the binding's edge. "You're lucky," he muttered. "Another inch and that blade would have punctured a lung." Lucky. Right. That evening, dinner became a different kind of trial. 143 competitors remained. Long table, Adrian at the head like a dark king from old stories. And somehow, I was seated within his direct line of sight. My stepbrothers were there. Bjorn kept glancing at me, then away, jaw working like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Magnus sneered at everything. Eric preened. And Astrid Bloodmoon, daughter of the Bloodmoon Alpha, seated close enough to Adrian that the claim was clear, watched me like I was an insect that had wandered on her plate. Then Adrian's voice cut through the din. "Leo Carlson." Every head turned. "Tell me about your family, your reasons for competing." An interrogation disguised as dinner conversation. My family? I kept my voice low, steady. I wanted to prove I was worth something beyond their expectations. His eyes flashed gold. "And have you?" "Ask me after the final trial, Your Majesty." Something dangerous crossed his face. Amusement? Hunger? "Remain after dinner. I have questions." Not a request. His study was all dark wood and shadows and books that probably held secrets older than most kingdoms. Adrian didn't sit, he prowled, circling me like he had in the forest, except this time there was no plausible deniability. "I can smell fear and lies, little wolf." He stopped too close. "Which are you hiding?" The mate bond was suffocating this close. My pulse thundered. My wolf clawed awake, desperate, screaming at me to submit, to tilt my neck, to give in. "Neither, Your Majesty. Just nervous. You're intimidating." "Am I?" He reached out, touched my jaw, tilted my face up with fingers that could snap my neck without effort. His eyes searched mine. "You're running out of time." My breath caught. "And I'm running out of patience." The words hung between us, heavy with meaning I wouldn't acknowledge. Then he stepped back, releasing me. "Go. Before I do something we'll both regret." I fled. Made it 3 steps into the corridor before Astrid's voice stopped me cold. "Careful, little wolf." She smiled like a blade. "The king may seem interested, but he eats weaklings like you for sport. He needs a true mate, not a pretender." The threat crystallized. There were competitors in the trials. And then there were competitors for the king. I'd entered a game I didn't understand the rules to, and the stakes just got lethal. Andreas didn't waste time with pleasantries the next morning. I know you're female, I know you're his mate, and I know you have no idea what you actually are. The world tilted. What? The sovereign blessing. He circled me, like a teacher with a particularly dense student. Silver eye flash, bloodline so rare most wolves think it's myth, only appears in females, only manifests under true danger or authentic emotional truth. My throat closed. I don't. You do. I saw it during the first trial. Brief, you probably didn't even notice, but I did. He moved faster than thought, blade singing toward my throat, and instinct took over. I blocked. Too fast. Impossibly fast. Again, he attacked from a different angle. My body moved before my mind caught up, and in the mirror across the courtyard, I saw it. My eyes flashed silver. Moonlight given form, there and gone in a heartbeat. Andreas dropped to one knee. My queen. Stop, my voice cracked. Stop calling me that. Adrian has been searching for a sovereign blessed mate for over a century, he continued like I hadn't spoken. The trials? Designed specifically to draw you out. Every challenge tested qualities that matter in a queen. Compassion, strategy, courage, integrity. Wait. You're saying this entire thing was rage burned through shock? Manipulated? I came here to prove I was worth something as myself, and you're telling me I'm only valuable because of some bloodline I didn't even know I had? Is that what you heard? Andreas's voice was gentle, devastating. My grandmother was sovereign blessed, taught me to recognize the signs before they killed her 80 years ago. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I couldn't breathe. Someone who survived 23 years of invisibility and still chose compassion over victory. Someone who killed to survive and felt it instead of becoming numb. Someone strong enough to earn her place even when fate handed her a crown. He stood. The king didn't manipulate you. He gave you the opportunity to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Your strength is your own. The blessing just names it. Then why does it feel like everything I did was meaningless, predetermined? He shook his head. Because you're still measuring your worth by whether someone planned for you to have it. After he left, I stayed in the training yard, grabbed a knife, drew it across my palm deliberately, watching blood well, then watching silver light knit the wound close in seconds. Proof. Undeniable. I am Leonora Carlson, I whispered to the empty courtyard. Sovereign blessed, invisible daughter of Stormhowl, and I still don't know if I matter. A voice from the shadows, rough with something that sounded like pain. You matter to me. Adrian stepped into the light, and I realized he'd heard everything. Every doubt, every fear, every question about whether I was worth anything beyond what destiny decided. His golden eyes met mine, and this time I didn't look away. Because maybe being seen, truly seen, not just hunted, was exactly what I'd been running from all along.
I've known since the opening ceremony. Adrian's voice cut through the silence, and every defense I'd built shattered. You, what? Honeysuckle and defiance. That's what you smell like. He moved closer, predator given permission. The moment you entered my arena, my wolf knew. Female, mate, mine. Then why? Rage exploded through shock. Why let me suffer? Why watch me nearly die in that forest while I what? Claimed you without your consent? Announced to the kingdom that their future queen was a girl who deceived her way into trials? His eyes flashed gold. Would you have accepted being queen if I'd simply offered it? Or would you have believed it was pity, or duty, or anything other than your own worth? The truth of it hit like a blade. I would have rejected him, would have believed I was charity case, political convenience, anything but chosen. I hate that you're right, I whispered. I hate that I had to watch you bleed to prove it. He stepped closer. The sovereign blessing called to me, ancient magic recognizing ancient magic. I designed these trials to test what matters in a queen, not strength, but character, compassion, strategy, integrity. You played God with my life. I gave you agency. His voice dropped. The blessing only wakes when you choose yourself freely. If I'd simply claimed you, you'd be powerless, beautiful, trapped, and you'd hate me for it. I might hate you anyway. Then hate me. He backed me against the wall, hands on either side of my head, close enough that I could feel his breath. Then hate me, but tell me you don't feel this. Tell me the mate bond isn't burning through your veins right now. Tell me you don't want... I kissed him. Or he kissed me. Honestly, I don't know who moved first, just that suddenly his mouth was on mine, and the world ignited. The mate bond snapped into place with enough force that we both gasped. A tether pulled so tight it rewrote my DNA, branded my soul, made me his in ways I'd never be free of. And I didn't want to be free. His hands were in my hair, on my jaw, everywhere, and he was gentle despite the desperation, checking, always checking that I wanted this. I did. God help me, I did. When we finally broke apart, both shaking, I managed, I can't do this. I can't be Leo and your mate. I can't survive both. Then stop being Leo. His forehead pressed against mine. Be Leonora. Be my queen. Be mine. Not yet. I need to finish the trials as myself. Not as your mate, not as sovereign blessed, as me. Something like pride crossed his face. Stubborn. You knew that when you started hunting me. I did. He pulled back slightly. But the Blood Moon Alpha is planning something. The trials aren't the only danger anymore. We negotiated in whispers. I'd continue as Leo publicly. He'd protect me without interference. Andreas would guard me closer. We had until coronation to figure out exposure. At dawn, I turned to leave. He caught my wrist. Leonora, that's your real name? I nodded. He tasted it like prayer. Leonora, my mate, my queen, mine. The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, for the first time in my life, being claimed felt like being seen.
2 weeks blurred into a rhythm of deception and truth in equal measure. Days belonged to Leo. The trial of strategy became my vindication. War game simulation, limited resources, 47 competitors watching me maneuver opponents using terrain, fake retreats, psychological warfare instead of brute force. I won. Not barely, not by luck. I dominated. And for the first time, other competitors looked at me with something besides contempt. They looked at me with respect. Knights belonged to Leonora. Adrian's private library where he taught me pack politics, how Blood Moon craved power, how Nightshade valued honor, how Ironpaw and Silverthorn formed unlikely alliances. His hands in my hair while he explained the burden of ruling 6 territories that would rather war than cooperate. Forest clearings where we kissed until I forgot my own name. Hidden balconies where I finally told him about my mother, how she died giving birth to a daughter nobody wanted, and he held me while I cried for the first time in years. You're the first person in 200 years I can be honest with, he whispered against my temple. Everyone else wants something. You just want to be seen. Is that so different? Yes, because you don't want me to see what you've performed. You want me to see what you've hidden. His thumb traced my jaw. And you're magnificent, Leonora, even the parts you think are broken. Training sessions became different. He'd help me rebind my chest, fingers gentle, acknowledging the pain I'd been pretending didn't exist. This hurts you. Everything hurts. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be. We sparred in private, and I actually landed a hit, caught him off guard with a feint he didn't see coming. His laugh was surprised, delighted, proud. My queen has claws. But paradise has a shelf life. Bjorn started watching Leo too carefully during meals. Astrid Bloodmoon made increasingly pointed comments about Adrian's favoritism. Intelligence reported Ragnar Bloodmoon in the capital for diplomatic reasons that felt like threats wearing crowns. End the trials early, Adrian urged during one stolen midnight. I can name you to the guard now, keep you safe. No, I pulled away. I will not let him take this from me. I earned this. And if earning it gets you killed, then I die having proven I was worth something. The look on his face, devastation and understanding and fury, told me he knew exactly what that meant, because he'd lived 300 years being valued for his power, never his person. We were both starving for the same thing, to matter for reasons beyond what we could do for others. After a particularly intense night, his mouth on my throat, my hands in his hair, the mate bond singing so loud I thought it might crack my ribs, I snuck back to barracks at dawn, found a note on my bunk, elegant script that made my blood run cold. You know what you are, little sister. We need to talk. Bjorn. My world tilted. My stepbrother knew. And the question that mattered wasn't how, it was what would he do with that knowledge? Protect me or destroy me?
Bjorn found me in the palace gardens at midnight, and I went armed. I've always known. His first words, no preamble. I helped you. The world stopped. What? The trial invitation, the forged documents, the medical clearance. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I gave them to you, Leonora. You think you stole them. You didn't. I left them where you'd find them. My blade was in my hand before conscious thought. Why? Because I couldn't watch you suffocate any more. He finally looked at me, and his eyes were devastated. Because I'm not our father's son. None of us are. Wait, what? Our mother had an affair. Father knows. Kept us anyway because we were male. Bjorn's laugh was bitter, broken. You are the true heir of Stormhowl, true blood, sovereign blessed, apparently, and I've watched them treat you like nothing, while I, a bastard, wore the crown that should have been yours. The injustice of it hit like physical violence. You let me believe I was a coward, am a coward. I benefited from your invisibility and hated myself for it. He stepped closer. But I'm trying to fix it now. Magnus has aligned with Bloodmoon. He's planning to expose you during the final trial, publicly, humiliate you and Stormhowls simultaneously. How do you... I overheard him. 3 days, Leonora. You have 3 days before he destroys everything you've built. Here's the thing about trust when you've been invisible your whole life. You don't know how to do it. Every kindness feels like manipulation. Every ally feels like a future betrayal. But Bjorn's guilt was too raw to be performance. Why tell me? Why help me? Because you're my queen. He dropped to one knee, and the gesture felt like absolution and accusation in equal measure. You always should have been, and I'm done being complicit in injustice just because it benefits me. If you're lying, then kill me. You've earned that right. He looked up. But if I'm telling the truth, you need to move now. Whatever you and Adrian are planning, do it before Magnus does. I should have walked away, should have suspected trap. Instead, I offered my hand, pulled him to his feet. I'll trust you, but if you betray me, you'll have Adrian rip out my throat. I know. Something like relief crossed his face. I wouldn't blame you. He left with final warning. 3 days. Magnus moves during the coronation ceremony. Whatever you're planning, do it before then, or he'll destroy you first. I watched him disappear into shadows,
and realized I'd been so focused on hiding from Adrian, from being seen, that I forgot to watch for knives from behind. Visibility attracts predators, but invisibility?
Trial of sovereignty. Demonstrate leadership by commanding a unit of warriors in simulated battle. 12 men assigned to Leo, all older, all skeptical, all visibly resentful of taking orders from the king's favorite. The grand arena packed with thousands, every territory represented, every political player watching, waiting for me to fail. Listen up, I told my unit, voice steady. I'm small, I'm young, and you think I earned this position on my back. Prove me wrong. Follow my commands for the next hour, and I'll show you what leadership actually looks like. One warrior, scarred, massive, sneered. Why should we? Because I'm going to win you this battle without getting any of you killed. And if I fail, you can request reassignment. I met his eyes. Deal? Grudging nods. The simulation began. Opposing force of 15, better armed, higher ground advantage. Standard strategy, frontal assault, overwhelm with numbers. I sent 3 warriors left as feint, drew enemy attention, circled the main unit right using terrain to mask our approach. When they committed to the feint, we struck from behind. First successful maneuver, my unit's skepticism cracked. Not bad, runt, scarred warrior muttered. Second phase, enemy commander adapted, split his force, tried to flank us. I adapted faster, unconventional tactics, fake retreat that lured them into a kill zone, psychological warfare that made them second-guess every decision. We were winning. Then one of my warriors went down, arrow to the shoulder, bleeding, vulnerable. Standard strategy? Leave him, secure the flag victory, win the trial. I looked at the flag, looked at my fallen warrior, looked at Adrian in the royal box, golden eyes locked on mine. Screw the flag. Formation, I shouted. Protect the fallen. My unit hesitated. This would cost us the win. Now! They moved, formed defensive circle. I took an arrow meant for the injured warrior, felt it punch through my shoulder, and kept commanding. We didn't win the simulation, but when it ended, my warrior, the one I'd saved, looked at me with something like awe. I'd follow Leo into hell itself. The others nodded, not grudging anymore, loyal. Adrian's eyes met mine across the arena. He nodded once. Approval. Results announced. 6 finalists selected. Leo Carlson, Bjorn Carlson, my stepbrother and I, together. The irony wasn't lost. 2 others whose names blurred, and notably, not Magnus. My youngest stepbrother's rage was visible from across the arena. He stormed out, and I knew he'd escalate, make good on his threat, burn everything down out of spite. That evening, private ceremony. Adrian in full regalia, addressing the 6 of us. Leo Carlson, his voice carried, captain of the Queen's Guard. The room went silent. Queen's Guard hadn't existed in centuries. He was creating the position, for me, honoring what I'd earned while preparing for what I'd become. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow, because they were celebrating Leo, a fiction, a performance, not Leonora, not me. That night, I couldn't sleep, stood on the barracks balcony staring at the palace, thinking, tomorrow I'd either be crowned queen or executed for fraud. Arms wrapped around me from behind. Adrian, always finding me. Whatever happens tomorrow, you are mine. His chin rested on my shoulder, and I protect what's mine. I leaned into him, solid, real, safe. I'm so tired of hiding. He turned me to face him, hands framing my face, golden eyes burning with certainty. Then don't. Stand beside me tomorrow as yourself. Let them see who their queen really is. And for the first time since I cut my hair in my father's study, I thought,
Maybe being seen wasn't the death of me. Maybe it was the beginning. Invisibility makes you vulnerable to the ones already standing beside you.
The grand howling grounds held thousands, and every single one of them was about to watch me either ascend or shatter. 6 guards in formal military dress, me in binding so tight I could barely breathe. But this was the last time. The last time I'd wrap myself into someone else's shape. Adrian stood at the center, in black and silver, crown of iron and moonstone catching light like captured stars, and he was magnificent. Each guard knelt, swore oath, received insignia. My turn. I dropped to one knee, and the mate bond erupted. Silver and gold light crackling between us, visible, undeniable, so intense that the crowd gasped. Murmurs rippled. The king has found his mate. Adrian's eyes were pure molten gold, his control fracturing, and when he placed his hand on my head to give blessing, our skin contact sent sparks arcing through the air like lightning. The supernatural made manifest. Then, arrows fell like rain, silver-tipped, aimed at Adrian's heart. Instinct overrode thought. I tackled him, felt the arrow punch through my shoulder instead of his chest, and chaos detonated. Guards formed protective circles, crowds scattered, warriors shifted mid-run. Blood Moon soldiers emerged from the crowd, coordinated, brutal. Ragnar Blood Moon's voice boomed. The old king dies. My daughter becomes queen. The territories unite under Blood Moon. Adrian shifted partially, claws extending, fangs lengthening, gold eyes blazing, and the battle became savage. I fought, forgot the disguise, forgot everything except survive. Then an assassin's blade slashed across my chest. The binding tore, wrappings fell away. Time stopped. My chest, female, undeniable, exposed to thousands of witnesses. Silence rippled outward like a shockwave. Magnus appeared, triumphant, vicious. Look, the king's precious guard is a woman, a fraud. The crowd saw. Breasts, blood, truth. Bjorn's anguished cry. Leonora? My father's voice shattered. My daughter? Humiliation crashed over me, every nightmare realized, every fear confirmed. But the assassin was still coming, and something inside me broke. No, not broke, freed. My eyes flashed silver, so bright people shielded their faces, and time slowed. I saw every movement, every threat, every possibility. Moved with supernatural speed, disarmed the assassin, snapped his neck with a sound like breaking branches, whirled toward Ragnar. My voice rang out, no longer forced lower, full of power. I am Leonora Carlson, daughter of Stormhowl, and you have made a grave mistake. Silver light haloed my body, wounds healing before everyone's eyes, the sovereign blessing fully manifest, undeniable, divine.
I stood between Adrian and Ragnar, a shield made of moonlight. Then Adrian was beside me, and his voice carried alpha command that forced every wolf to stillness. This is Leonora, sovereign blessed daughter of the moon goddess herself. She is my mate. She is your Luna queen, and anyone who questions her answers to me. He pulled off his cloak, wrapped it around my exposed body, removed his crown, placed it on my head while I was still covered in blood and battle dirt. The message? She doesn't need to be cleaned up to deserve this. Magnus screamed, "She's a fraud! She lied!" Adrian's response was ice. She defeated every challenge I set, earned her place through skill, courage, and blood. The only fraud here colluded with traitors. His eyes locked on Magnus and Ragnar. I found my voice, spoke to the kingdom. You're right to be angry. I deceived you. I disguised myself because females were forbidden from proving themselves. But I survived 7 trials designed to kill. I defeated your finest warriors. I earned respect from every guard who served beside me. And tonight, I saved your king's life. My voice strengthened. If this kingdom cannot see worth until it's wearing a crown, then I will wear this crown, and I will teach you to see differently. That strength doesn't require permission, that value doesn't require validation, that a queen is crowned not because she's perfect, but because she refuses to hide. Silence. Deafening. Then Bjorn dropped to one knee. You are my queen. You always should have been. Andreas followed. My queen. My trial unit as one. Our captain. Our queen. One by one, the territories knelt. All except Ragnar Bloodmoon. Then Bloodmoon is in rebellion, Adrian said quietly. Take him. Guards arrested Ragnar. Astrid dragged away screaming. Magnus tried to run. Bjorn stopped him. You chose your side, brother. Live with it. My father approached, tears streaming, mouth opening. I raised my hand. Not now, not here, maybe not ever, but I hear you. Not forgiveness, acknowledgement. Adrian took my hand, performed the Luna claiming ceremony right there. Bite mark on my neck, bond sealed publicly, declaration before the moon goddess. The kingdom witnessed, their king had his queen. 3 months later, I stood on the training grounds teaching new recruits, including females, for the first time in history. Female armor, hair still short, scars visible, crown on my head. A young woman said she couldn't compete. I smiled. I once believed I had to hide to survive, but hiding is just another word for dying slowly. You don't need permission to be strong. You need courage, and courage is choosing to stand even when standing hurts. Adrian watched from the balcony, hand resting on my pregnant belly, the sovereign blessing fulfilled. Bjorn approached him. The kingdom is changing, because of her. Adrian, the kingdom is healing, because she refused to stay broken. I looked up, met his eyes across the distance, smiled. The crown was heavier than I expected, but I was done pretending weight was the same as burden. I had been invisible. I had been hunted. Now, I was seen, and I would teach this kingdom what it meant to truly look. So tell me, did Leonora's journey from invisible to unstoppable resonate with you? Drop a comment below with your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story out of 10. Did the coronation battle give you chills? Did you see the twist with Bjorn coming? If this story reminded you that you don't need permission to claim your power, hit that like button and subscribe, because next week, another queen rises, another throne awaits, and you won't want to miss it. See you then.